Spelunky 2 has been a very long time coming for fans of the brutally difficult platformer roguelike. And earlier this year, the game came out, and it has led to some very polarizing opinions. And after finally clearing the Master Challenge, I'm ready to kind of share my thoughts on this game and why I come away from this one being very disappointed. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about what Spelunky 2 is for the new people watching. This is an action roguelike that is built heavily on platforming gameplay. Each area or biome has its own unique hazards, events, and situations you'll have to deal with and accommodate. Now, as you play through and move through these levels, of course, death is a certainty, and the B-roll footage you're going to be watching will be full of lots of it. Now, there's two key elements that has always separated Spelunky 2 from the other action roguelikes, and just roguelikes in general. The first is the heavy focus on platforming. To this day, we still haven't seen another roguelike go to this level in terms of the platforming challenge that you're going to have to deal with. Part of that is the interactions of the world. This is a very emergent or very dynamic set of elements. Nothing works at random, in the sense that it is just complete chaos. You never know what is going to happen. Everything has a very logical set of circumstances or actions to it, which in turn will affect the world around you. And a lot of that is going to be getting you killed. Spelunky 2 is a brutally difficult game, and we'll talk more about this in the second half. But this is a game that is full of a lot of death traps, and even just death situations, as I'm afraid you're going to be seeing very momentarily. Now, the proc gen of Spelunky 2 is built heavily on kind of taking these sections or kind of like bite-sized elements and stitching them together. And once you've played this game enough, or you get good enough at it, you're really going to start to spot what areas are being repeated in terms of obstacle placements or just the general layouts of these levels. As I said a few minutes ago, each biome is built on having specific events or situations that can happen, but the actual overall layouts remain consistent from play to play. You're going to start from somewhere on the topmost layer and have to work your way to the bottom, and it's usually about 4 layers deep in most cases. Now, there are specific exceptions to this rule. With that said, Spelunky 2 is a game that demands a lot from the player. You have to be 100% focused at all times to have any chance at winning in this game, and even with that said, you're not going to win. There's going to be a case where the game is just going to screw you. And that is kind of the frustration that goes with trying to play Spelunky 2, or even just trying to beat it. As with the first game, there are multiple secret endings and secret areas that expert players will go for. Most of you watching this may never beat the base game, let alone do these special challenges as well. But with that said, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to get to the meat of this video, and why unequivocally Spelunky 2 is a terrible roguelike and probably one of the worst to play in this year. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. It took me a while to try to understand why Spelunky 2 was just not doing it for me from a roguelike perspective. And what I've come to realize is that it kind of misses the mark when it comes to good roguelike or even action roguelike design. As we've said, when you're trying to make a roguelike, a big part about this has to do with the variance of play. Variance comes from both the viable options that come with a roguelike, as well as what the game can throw at the player to keep them on their toes. And Spelunky 2 doesn't work in either aspect. It is a hard game, yes, but there's not a lot here that changes run to run. The number of ways that a biome can challenge you are far less compared to the first Spelunky. Now, the game Spelunky 2 makes up for that by having far more biomes, but there are just so few actual moving pieces to each one of these biomes that it becomes very repetitive. That section that you saw on the left there, where it's a high drop into 2 spikes and the wall is blocked, I have seen that in almost every run of Spelunky 2. And you're going to find these pieces being far more, or having their appearance being far more common compared to other roguelikes that do a lot in terms of providing variance in the environment or the hazards. Speaking of which, hazard placement has been upped in terms of its difficulty, and the game is all too happy to set up areas where there is no way you're going to get through without taking damage unless you have enough bombs or ropes to mitigate it, such as placing the arrow traps purposely along the main path, or one of my favorites, placing them down a pit that you won't be able to see until you drop down, and then they're going to hit you 2 or 3 times and probably kill you. And the game is far more item reliant compared to the first game. Now, another point about this game is that the requirements or what you need to win is very reductive. And this is a very huge issue that the game has. If you're going to win this game, and we're not even talking about the secret endings, you need several items to stand a chance. And before any expert players who tell me they'd be in the cosmic ocean with only bombs and ropes comes in to chime in, I would like to know how many people have been in Spelunky 2 with only bombs and rope. No other items to pick up, no movement items, no spiked shoes, anything like that. And get back to me on that one. The point is that very little has to go wrong for you to lose, and a lot has to go right to have any chance at winning. And as we've said, this is a game that you have to be on 100% of the time to have any, and I do mean any, chance of winning. And it's exhausting to play this game. I couldn't see playing this for like 4 to 5 hours at a time, although I've seen a few streamers who've managed to do that. And the problem is that I don't feel like I'm improving at this game anymore. I feel like I'm jumping through hoops, hoping for that mythical run when I do get the items that I need. That I do get an early cape, or the shop sells enough bombs for me to use. And now that I finished the game on Master difficulty, or just the Master Challenge, I really am losing any sense of willpower or motivation to keep playing this game. Because I know that in order to go forward, I'm going to have to once again complete a very specific set of options. And even if I do all that right, I could still lose due to some random thing. And at the time of this recording, the game has received several balance patches, and they've actually made it harder, with the Olmec fight being changed to be even more difficult in the second phase. And this is ultimately my problem with Spelunky 2. It is a great sequel to the first game, but it is not a good roguelike. I don't want to have to jump through hoops and play this game 100% in a fixed way to have any chance at winning. And this is a sequel that is clearly meant for the people who found the first Spelunky to be too easy. And nobody is going to be able to deny that one, especially with how things have gotten even harder in the first area. And as another big case in point, when you get hit, you are stun locked for a good 5 seconds in some cases, and you will die from anything nearby when that happens. Health is mostly meaningless when it comes to the number of death traps and death options that can occur in this game. And again, if you're an expert player, none of that is really going to matter to you. But even the experts still suffer when playing this game. I've watched streamers who have managed to make it to the Cosmic Ocean still die in the first and second biome. And this is not a game that I want to keep replaying over and over again. It is just a trial that once beaten, there really isn't any other motivation I feel to keep playing it. And I'm sure some people are going to go for, the full Cosmic Ocean, experience. But the amount of weight that is associated to getting to that run is just way above my pay grade. And like I said, there are so many little things that can come back to bite you that there's not much you can do otherwise to get around it. So, for those of you who have played Spelunky 2, I'm curious what you think about this and whether or not I am going beyond the pale here in terms of this description of it. And with that said, we're going to wrap up this review here. Ultimately, again, if you found Spelunky 1 to be too difficult, you're going to probably like Spelunky 2. But don't come crying to me if you find this game to be on the difficult side to play. With that said, thanks for tuning in. If you are new, check out the Discord and Patreon link down below. And come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoy things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design. And come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it. And tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.